My wife created 20 new marriage rules, so I added just one rule that ended her game. Last year, my wife Ashley came home from some weekend marriage seminar with this huge 3-ring binder. She was practically glowing with excitement. She said we needed more structure in our relationship to make it stronger. Fair enough, I thought. We'd been married 3 years and maybe some ground rules would help us communicate better. I was actually curious about what she'd learned. Rule number 1 seemed reasonable. No phones during dinner. I could definitely live with that. We both spent too much time scrolling anyway. But then came rule 2. All weekend plans must be approved by both parties at least 48 hours in advance. That seemed a bit formal, but okay. By rule 5, I needed written permission to buy anything over $50. Rule 8 said I had to ask before inviting any friends over to our house, even for watching the game. Rule 12 required me to submit a weekly schedule of all my activities, including gym time and lunch meetings. She wanted everything planned out in advance. The list kept growing every few days. No watching sports for more than 2 hours on weekends. No eating anywhere except the kitchen and dining room. No leaving dirty dishes in the sink overnight, even one coffee mug. Rule 14 said no buying lunch at work more than twice a week. I had to pack lunch or eat the cafeteria food. Rule 15 required me to be home by 6:30 every weeknight unless I had prior approval. I tried to be a good sport about the whole thing. Ashley seemed genuinely happier when everything was organized and predictable. She made these little checkboxes next to each rule and would actually mark them off when I followed them correctly. She even bought a special dry erase board for the kitchen where she'd track my compliance. Green check marks for following rules, red X's for violations. But rule 18 really started getting to me. I had to text her every single time I left work, arrived somewhere new and left again, like I was some kind of parolee checking in with my probation officer every few hours. Rule 19 said all of my purchases, no matter how small, had to be logged in a shared Google spreadsheet. Even a candy bar from the gas station needed a receipt and explanation. Rule 20 was the absolute final straw. I needed written permission to visit my own parents, not just a heads up or casual mention, actual written permission, signed and dated. She printed out all 20 rules and had them laminated at the local print shop. Posted copies in the kitchen, bathroom, and my home office. She even made me sign an official document agreeing to follow every single rule. I was getting seriously fed up, but I didn't want to start a huge fight about it. Ashley had been through a really messy divorce with her controlling ex-husband, and I figured this was her way of feeling secure and in control of her life. But then I had a brilliant idea. I told Ashley that if we were going to have official marriage rules with signatures and everything, I wanted to add just one rule of my own. She seemed genuinely excited that I was finally participating in her organizational system. Rule 21, I announced. All rules apply equally to both spouses with no exceptions. She laughed and agreed immediately. Said it was only fair that we both follow the same high standards. She even helped me type it up in the same font and format and got it laminated right alongside the others. The very next Friday, Ashley casually mentioned she wanted to go shopping with her sister that weekend. I politely reminded her about rule number 2. She needed my written approval 48 hours in advance, and it was already Friday afternoon. On Saturday, she came home with a beautiful $60 scented candle from some boutique store. I asked to see the receipt and pointed out rule 5. She needed my permission for any purchase over $50. Sunday afternoon, her college friend Katie showed up unannounced around 2 o'clock. Ashley let her in and they spent 3 hours catching up and drinking wine. I gently mentioned rule 8 about getting advance approval for all house guests. By Tuesday morning, Ashley was getting visibly annoyed with me. She said I was being petty and unreasonable and that the rules were supposed to help our marriage grow stronger, not create more problems. I agreed with her completely. I suggested we sit down together and go through all 21 rules carefully to see which ones were actually making our relationship better. We spent almost 4 hours at the kitchen table that evening, reading each rule out loud and talking about how it felt to follow it. When Ashley had to seriously consider asking for my written permission to visit her own mother, she got really quiet. When she thought about logging every single coffee and lunch purchase in a detailed spreadsheet, she started shaking her head. When she imagined having to text me location updates every time she left the grocery store or nail salon, she finally understood how suffocating it all was. This is absolutely ridiculous, she said, staring at all the laminated sheets spread across our table. I sound like some crazy control freak trying to micromanage every aspect of our lives. I didn't say anything. I just sat there and waited for her to process everything. Ashley gathered up all the rule sheets, the compliance tracking board, and even the signed agreement. She threw everything straight into the kitchen trash can. She said marriage should feel like partnership and teamwork, not like one person managing the other person like an employee. We ended up keeping exactly 2 rules. No phones during dinner because that actually brought us closer together, and being honest about any big purchases because that's just good financial teamwork. Everything else went right out the window where it belonged. Turns out the most important rule for a happy marriage is treating your spouse like an equal partner, not like someone who needs constant supervision and management.